Okay, so I'm really cold right now. I've just started up the fire, so hopefully it'll get nice and warm in here. Now this is going to be a follow-up video to the video I made about using my stovetop as a heat source in here. And I just more thought about it, I thought, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this sort of MacGyver thing? It didn't work that great, and the stove is pretty far away from my bed. And you know what? I own a Mr. Buddy heater. The reason why I wasn't using that, I think I mentioned it, is because I hate using the 1 pound propane bottles. I have a little thing that will let me refill them. It's still a pain in the ass. In this kind of temperature, you're going through maybe 1 or 2 bottles a night. Probably 1 the way I use it, but still. Refilling them is a pain. Your hands get really cold, and I just hate everything about it. So I thought, you know what? Why am I fiddling around with doing these like MacGyver stuff at the stove? Why don't I just go out and get a hose that will connect up to my propane tank? So that's what I did. The first thing that I went out and got is I got this T. This is going to let me use both my my burner, my range for cooking, and my Mr. Buddy heater for heat. So this big end here will go to the stove, and this little one here will go to my Mr. Buddy. This hose here will connect with this head into that valve that I just showed you, which means that because it has this little pointy nozzle bit, if I disconnect it, turning the propane tank off first, I should still be able to run just my kitchen stove and not have my Mr. Buddy heater hooked up. That's really important to me, because otherwise, it's just asking for trouble when you have something that's movable hooked up to a hose that needs to remain pressurized. Like, that's a problem. So this will allow me to disconnect it, and then it will hook up into the Mr. Buddy heater on the other end there. And if this is a success and I want to keep doing it, I'm going to order a fuel filter for the Mr. Buddy heater, because they're really sensitive to that. They weren't available at the Canadian Tire where I bought the other 2 things, because this is kind of a last minute decision for me to do this. So I will probably have to order that on Amazon, something like that. So I'm going to take you guys out. Actually, I've got my drill battery charging up right now because it's obviously dead. It's really cold out. As soon as that is, I will drill a hole in my wall to bring the hose into the van. It's too dark outside to film anything, but I can take pictures with the flash, so this section will be a little bit different. The first thing that I did was I drilled a hole into the siding, and then I poked the end of the hose, the extension hose for high pressure propane, through it. Unfortunately, this hole has to be pretty big to accommodate the heads on the hose, so I'll have to probably go in and find some way of filling in the gap now that it is through, maybe with expanding foam or maybe even just some cloth or something like that. Then I actually moved the propane tank back to where it was, and the first part that I put on is this little monitor that allows me to see how much propane I have left. It doesn't really work in freezing temperatures, but it does work in the summer, so it's a good thing to have. Then I added the T connector and connected it up to the new hose. I finished it off by adding the original hose going to the stove and putting it all together. Now, I don't have any soapy water. Everything is frozen, so I can't check these connectors. Luckily, they are outside of the vehicle, so if it leaks, it's not a big deal. Okay, so here's the hose, and it is coming through a hole under there. I'm going to hook it up and see if it works. Okay, so here you can see the hose is connected. I now need to go outside and turn the propane on. It's worth pointing out that this green light here means that my propane detector is working, and it's right close to here. I decided that I'm actually going to start to make sure that this is still working. I can hear gas. Okay, that is working. Let's turn it off and go try and start this. So pilot light, we should see. If I hear it. This thing can be kind of tricky to start. Okay, I got a pilot light going. So I'm just going to very carefully turn on the heater. Oh my god, it's working. Oh, okay. Took me a long time to get that pilot light on, but it is working. So let's come over here and see if we can start both flames at the same time. Yeah. There we have it. The buddy heater is running on this hose, which means that I can kind of move it around a little bit. I think it's a 10-foot hose, so I've got quite a bit of maneuverability here. I've just put the hose through the middle of the curtain here, and it seems like this is a good place to put it. It's right next to the propane detector. It's near the bed too, so I'll actually get some heat from that. Okay, so it wasn't as tricky as I thought to get this working. I'm going to try using it just as a supplemental heat source. I'm going to use the wood stove too because I love the heat from that thing. I'm absolutely in love with that stove. It's just not great for maintaining temperature over long periods of time. So, hopefully the new buddy system on the hose will do me some good. The other thing that is super cool about this is that I can also hook up my oven now. So if I keep my oven under my bed instead of in the cab now, I can switch. It's got the exact same connection because it's also for those green, little green 1-pound propane canisters. And I can hook it up because I haven't been using it because it's a pain to use those green canisters. So that's something else that I can experiment with as well. All right, so it's been unscrewed. Yep. Okay. In there's a little valve. So I can connect this, disconnect it. That's awesome because it's a really it's such a pain to do it at that T connection outside. And that means that I'm able to use, if I bring my oven, put it underneath here, I can use that when I want to cook something in an oven. This is such an awesome thing. I should have done this a long time ago. Well, it's the morning, and this is where I ended up moving it to at the end of the night. And there was a reason for that. It's because when I woke up, when my alarm went off, I just reached over, turned it on. It was -5 in here, so quite a bit warmer than the other day. And then this got it up to about +5 by the time I actually had to get out of bed. So I wasn't freezing. This allowed me, to obviously turn it off at night. That way I don't have, an open flame going, which isn't the best thing to have when you're sleeping. But, I get to wake up, turn it on, and today is a good morning for me because I'm actually warm. Okay, so I have a few things to wrap up here. Firstly, I left this on overnight on the lowest setting, and I woke up and it was 12 degrees above freezing, which is, it was so nice not to be freezing in the morning. It was so nice, in fact, that I fell right back to sleep. Luckily, I didn't have school till much later, and it wasn't an issue. But yeah, normally when I wake up and it's freezing in the van, I poke my head out and boom, I'm awake, not going back to sleep after that. So, I deemed that this was a risk that I was willing to take. Obviously, it's an open flame. I'm asleep, maybe some people would have a problem with that. I was very careful with how I aimed it, where it was placed. Really, there wasn't much chance of it lighting, or there wasn't any, in my opinion, chance of it lighting anything on fire or anything like that. I had the vent open. I've got all of my propane detectors, and I've got a fire detector and a CO detector. So yeah, it made a big difference. There was one weird thing though, and that was that when I woke up, the humidity in here was 30%, which I was not expecting. It actually got really dry in here, and I noticed that propane is obviously puts moisture into the air when it's used. So I was expecting it to go up, and I haven't ever seen, no matter what temperature I've had, obviously warm air can hold more moisture and whatnot. I've never ever seen it 30 degrees. Or not 30 degrees, 30% humidity in here. Not at any weather, not at any heat with the wood stove. And wood stove is a dry heat, and it's supposed to help with that. So I'm not really sure what's going on. My theory is that yes, it's burning, and yes, it's increasing the humidity, but it's also creating warm air, which can hold more moisture, and then that warm air is finding the open fantastic fan and exiting. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, and I would love to hear if anyone has a better explanation for what is going on. It's certainly a welcome side effect, although I drank so much water in the morning, I used up my supply, because I was kind of a little bit dehydrated. My throat was all dry, it's gross and whatnot. But yeah, that's sort of the only explanation that I can think of. It's definitely a welcome side effect. Moisture is not a good thing. I don't want it in here. But adding more of it into the environment, it just sort of seems like that should increase my my humidity. I'm really glad that I made this change. I'm so happy to finally just be able to have a heat that I can turn on. It's really slow to heat up the van, much slower, orders of magnitude slower than the wood stove, but it can go longer, and it's better at maintaining a heat over a long period of time, though it can't maintain a very high heat in these temperatures currently. So it seemed like 12 was kind of what it could do. So it's definitely a different thing. I'm going to be using them both in conjunction with each other, using the nice dry heat when I'm spending time in front of the fire, using that to quickly raise the temperature when I come home, and then maintaining it with the Mr. Buddy. I don't know if I'll keep running it overnight. Probably not, because that just uses a lot of propane that I don't really feel like using. I think probably what I'll do is go back to the turning it off and then turning it on, in the morning when I wake up, sort of thing. However, like I said, it is pretty slow to heat things up. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Obviously, it's a little bit safer to do it the shut-off way, and it's a little bit more efficient, which is nice. Yeah, so yeah, wrapping it up. That's all I've got for you guys. Let me know what you thought of the video down below. Any comments or questions or concerns, you can leave them down below. And yeah, if you have an answer to my humidity conundrum, that would be much appreciated. So cheers, folks. I'll see you in the next one.